each of you read music and
I'm actually trying to learn on this tour. I've got a book. Pete reads music. Joe, you can read a book.
I can read it, but very slowly.
I
More slowly than it would take me to just listen to it and learn
I'm
something
close to
like
that. I can read it very slowly by going, okay, no, that's the G, and then work it out relatively. But I really want to learn how to read it.
It would be really great in terms of being a working musician to have known it from the start.
Yeah.
Because you can just get a gig. Like,
yeah.
If you don't read music, it's like you immediately have like 20% of the options, of the paid options.
The thing that really appeals to me about reading music is if you could, say you're like on a subway or a bus and you have a song in your head and just write it. There's the amount of times you have like ideas in your head and you're like, oh, I must remember it, or you sing it into your dictaphone on your phone or whatever. And it's never quite the same. But it's like I met a guy who scores classical music or whatever, and you just sit there and just be like, write it all out, there you go, and then someone plays it back and like, that's incredible that you just did that. I would really love, that would just be a great thing to do, maybe when I'm 50.
I fought musical theory for a long time when I was in high school. I just didn't want to do it, and it was hard to read, and it was like a different language, but eventually by the end of high school and the beginning of college, I could do it, and I'm glad I can, because when I teach a lesson, if somebody's like, I don't understand what you're saying, and I write it out, or I say, play that beat, and I'll write out what you're playing, and then it's just a good quality to have. If you go into an audition or if you go into a jazz gig where you have to read somebody's music, you can do it. So I'd rather have it than not have it.
So while these Chicago artists that are young, your advice would be definitely learn early on while you can.
It's better to have it than not have it. So
Yeah, I don't know.
I would try it if you can.
I was always so scared that if I learned it would like, you'd have no feel.
That's actually a good point. It's like,
and that's kind of like, I've had that, I still to this day I'm a bit like, but maybe it's better to just use your ears and feel it.
Music is so emotional and to take the analytical side approach to it, does it actually take away the emotion? Or
I don't know. I don't know yet because I can't read music.
It depends on what you want to do, really, honestly. If you just want to be like a player that is more about the vibe and more about interacting on a musical level and not going to auditions or going to gigs that you have to read music, that's fine. And millions of players do that, and it's great, But like if you want to work on a symphony, or if you want to, you're going to have to read music, and you have to understand what all that stuff means.
But also, if you learned kind of like when you play the guitar on just a feel level, you sort of learn like a blues scale or something.
Yeah.
That's still something you learned. It's not like it just came out of the ether somewhere. You kind of go down, down, down. And if you want to end up doing that for your whole life, don't bother learning anything. But if you learn something, then you can put it together in your head, in your soul, in your own way. So you learn everything you can, and then see what happens. I don't think you should. The only thing about like learning all that stuff, like I went to Berklee College of Music for about 5 weeks, and a lot of people I know that went there are kind of like terrified of making any music, because they're like, oh well, Charlie Parker's a great musician, and how can I ever be as good as him? All the greats are just so great.
Totally agree.
And they're just like, well, if you just be yourself, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. You get like mistakes. You think you can make mistakes.
Anything inhibits you musically or feel-wise, I think you've got to really step back and separate it. So I don't think it shouldn't be that if you learn to read music and understand theory, it's going to inhibit you and you're going to start playing without feel. It shouldn't necessarily do that, and I think it's definitely possible to not do that. But I think you've kind of got to be aware of it. Be like, because suddenly you could start playing and looking at the way you're playing and be like, well, that's not theoretically correct, so I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And as soon as your mind starts to do that, then I don't like the idea of that at all. But I'm sure it's possible. It's just to be able to go, well, look, I know this, so I'm just going to take what I want from it, and then fuck the rest of it.
Something else.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to be inspired in the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not inspired by music and you don't have the drive, then there's going to be that missing. The reason we're all doing it is because somewhere along the line we're inspired and we're like, you know what, I relate to that. That's what I want to do. That's what who I want to be. And then you learn along the way whatever it is you want to learn. Whether it's read music or whether it's fastest guitar solo or blues or ambient music, whatever it is. it's inspirational and you know, helps you understand yourself better. So.